Hello everyone, Master Xeon1001 here, and in this time-lapse narrative we will be going over the process and making the initial helmet for the model RN42, which was created to be basically a demonstration of how awesome hard ops can work in a situation with an organic model. However, I must say it's also been a learning experience as far as improvements that can be made for it to make it more efficient towards sub D. So do be looking forward to the next updates, because I've definitely have been getting a lot of feedback and interesting tidbits on things to do to improve it and make it even better as a tool for your hard surface operations. So usually with all these things I start off with a cube and just do a little proportional editing modeling, and then just from there go into dynamic topology. In fact, in this video you'll hardly even see me use hard ops for this, because it's mainly just sculpting and retopology. However, this is always one of my favorite projects. You start off sculpting these busts, and by the end of it your hope is that the bust looks back at you with personality and soul, because you've created someone capable of being a character, not a prop or something simple like a chair or something. But pretty much all I used hard ops for here was I added an option called red mode, which basically will just jump you over to a matte cap red with nothing else on the screen. Just a real quick way to just get to work. And then if you're not a big fan of the big red, like some people, there's also the just the gray UI, which will just clear everything off, like relationship lines and grid floors and dotted lines, which helps it feel a little bit more like ZBrush. But during this narration, the techniques you see here are hardly relevant. I talk about it all the time. Build things up with clay, smack it with the polish, hit it with the pinch. And then I always create a brush called SP, or super pinch, which basically is the pinch but with a bit of a curve, and also the strength turned up to something like uncontrollable. You see the regular pinch does a fairly good job. Now also the sculpting in Blender has received some improvements of late, like the ability to have your brush be the geometric density, instead of it being overall or relative or to your zoom level, which were the previous option. Now those options are still cool, but the brush option is phenomenal, because you can literally just have your brush be the basically the trendsetter. And so a lot of the sculpting that I do on this is me kind of experimenting with the improvements that have happened with the sculpting. Personally, I think the sculpting could use a little bit more speed on my end. However, I do find that going under the options tab and turning off threaded sculpt sometimes will speed up the reaction time between the tablet and the program itself. It's not a big thing, it's just I do notice it sometimes when I'm making really broad strokes with high numbers, but it's something that I'm sure will just disappear over time, as with all bugs. But that's hardly even worth pointing out. But it's something worth knowing. Definitely keep in mind the threaded sculpt option, because if your sculpting is just really slow, you might want to try turning it off and on, seeing if that might work better for you. So for the initial sculpt of this, it was just a basic idea. Like, I'd been wanting to do like these mechs with like pointier chins for a while. Like, I'd been kind of sketching them up in Paint Storm, just messing around, and the ideas are looking more and more vivid. In fact, like, I'm already thinking about the next robot after this robot, and how awesome he's going to look in the helmet, based off of some just shapes that came to my attention recently. But the sculpting portion of this it does kind of take a moment, but it's important to get in a nice block in. In fact, the sharper your block in is, the easier it is to retopo. I mean, you could be a little bit messier with it and probably still get away with it. However, your results may vary. In fact, this first part here, this video is intended to be for the YouTube community. However, there are exclusives that are being added on Patreon and to the Gumroad Hard Ops as well. So if you're wanting to get the full course as well as the entire model or the meshes or any of that, just pick up Hard Ops. It definitely supports me through its development and keeps me living, which is the goal of being an artist. But enough on that. So the dam brush that I always make is just a just a brush with a nipple curve just to make it sharp, and then I usually follow that up with the SP, which will get these pieces real nicely tightly locking. But as you see, it is a pretty straightforward creation session. So it's definitely something that I just recommend playing with. I see a lot of complaints about the sculpting tools, but it's control. Once you understand your controls and how to control the mesh and how to not pull the mesh or push the mesh, then you definitely can get more predictable results. Like I'm pretty much at the point now where I know I can go in to sculpt mode and pull out something that's at least interesting. And so I think you got to go in with that mindset. Now, the final model definitely differs quite a bit on the helmet. However, let me tell you, after the retopo session, Hard Ops became amazing on this model. Like, I was actually demonstrating it in a session with one of my mentees, and the difference is just there. And you'll see it whenever it comes up. But, I definitely always felt that there was something lacking in polygonal modeling, and as well as, crit I've received from better artists about the quality of my bevels finally made me so paranoid about bevels that I had to duck into the woodworks and get to the bottom of this. And so now I can say that, I don't want to say I've seen the light, because I'll come back with a new video like I always do saying I've seen the light again. But, developments are always key towards keeping my interest. Like, I almost look at myself as almost a scientist of robot creation. Like I'm researching the next big technique that'll work for me, in my mindset. I see so many videos and tutorials and guides that are, they're interesting techniques, but they're just not the technique that I'm particularly looking for. So, it's all about finding what works for you. I end up putting that there, totally get scrapped. So all these lines mean nothing, but it's always fun to just carve some things in, go in, just pinch it up. And pinching it up also adds geometry to that area, making it denser. So it actually also allows you more control. So whenever I'm looking at this thing, I almost see like a red to blue map visually of like how much control I have. And that control is coincidentally in the same places where everything's pinched up, because the areas that pinch you can have more control on and push and pull without breaking the mesh or folding your normals in on themselves or causing like a geometric black hole or something. So that's kind of how you should approach it. Now the next part is retopology, which is pretty much where this video ends at, before the second video, which I'll also be making a small YouTube one showing just hard ops in random places. But like I said, if you're interested in the full tutorial and the model, definitely go pick it up. It's something that I'm hoping to have finished up by the end of next week. Patrons, you already know, you'll get all this stuff as always. So sorry about the hack, not my fault. So, retopology, what's there to say about it? I love it. It's the zen of creation for me. I create things so brutally, and then I go in and create things so cleanly. So, people are always asking me, is this manifold? My particular style doesn't actually require that. Now, if I was making this a game mesh, I'd definitely be making it airtight. But keeping it plated just allows me a little bit more versatility in the future. Like, in my head, I see these things like transforming and like flipping off and coming back around, like some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, done right. Speaking of which, did you know that they had a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode? Not that anyone's still watching it, of course, but they brought all the Red Rangers from like times past and had them like duke it out against a great enemy in like one episode. Not to say that I would go watch it, but it sounds like a pretty interesting episode. You know, I think it was called Red something, but, you know, favorite color being red. Also, you know, I used to watch Power Rangers as a kid because, you know, there wasn't nothing better on TV. Just thought I'd bring that up while we're, you know, making a helmet here. You know, another thing I definitely strive for is to, you know, not look like something that could be in Destiny. Since Destiny came out, you know, they kind of just scraped the closet on designs and just got everything that was cliche and just made it a milestone in the game. So, you know, putting scars on robots and things like that, you know, I'm having to rethink it and maybe, you know, go the Hideo Kojima route and just give people fantastic eyewear. I mean, you think robots could make it with glasses? You leave your comments below. Just kidding. But continuing on. So, like I said, you know, most of the pieces here are being ignored. Now, I basically also wanted to make this robot as a test of the new Quixel Suite 2.0 that they're letting me check out, which is pretty cool. So, you know, hopefully by the end of this, y'all should be able to see some really cool stuff come out of this. But for now, you know, we're focusing on now just, you know, retopologizing, getting the lines to fit, you know, thinking, you know, not only am I thinking about the topology, I'm also thinking about the bevels. But, you know, really when it comes to this sort of stuff, my goal is always to just not make sad faces. You know, if you bend faces too bad, they feel sad, you know. So I got like a sad mode that I see when I look at this, where it's like, you know, these faces are kind of bent the heck up. You see a lot better in your UV view when you turn on like stretching, but you know, I try not to give faces depression or PTSD by you know, making them connect to like crazy star poles. You know, that's the main thing. If you don't know what a star is, you know, of course that's you know, 5 points, more than 4 points shared by a single vert. Anytime I see those in a model, I cry inside, because, you know, you got to get rid of that. If anything's going to hurt your model, it's going to be some damn stars. It'll hurt it more than n-gons and triangles will. But, you know, stars in the right place. But, you know, sometimes I see a twinkle in the sky of a star next to a star next to another star. I'm like, got a whole Milky Way going on here. So, you know, this part here was also a part that, you know, initially I was kind of mad about, but, you know, I definitely changed this part quite a bit in the final construction. Like, I definitely am trying to make things that look like upgrades from my last things, which causes me to perpetually be cursed to, you know, create new things and get them all to the same level. Like, you know, this guy might be levels above Dukes. You know, people are like, this is the best robot you made. Yeah, when people say that, like, you know, you're breaking Dukes' heart. Don't say that around Dukes. He's the wallpaper on my tablet. But, you know, you don't want him to hear you saying things like that. You know, I think it's alright robot, but, you know, he's villain at best. Which also brings me, so right now, you know, I'm working on the legs of this guy, and, you know, I'm working with another artist on the design of the legs. However, you know, I think I might take him more in a traditional route. You know, kind of imagine this character kind of like you know, like ninja movements type of thing. You know, which that's kind of how I imagine all of these guys. Like in my head, you know, I don't see their shapes. I'm like, can this guy run fast? How would he move? Like, you know, would he be like, you know, like Hollow Ichigo or Goku, you know, as not so much them, but you know, it's all about the speed. You know, I guess if I want these people to move any faster, I put wheels on them. Just have everybody like wearing willy soaps. But you know, let's focus back on this. You know, it's really just retopology, so there's not really a lot to say there. So back to blabbering on mindlessly. So also Metal Gear Online came out recently. If you have that on PS4, go ahead and add me. Finale X, you gotta play that. It's so awesome. It'll tide me over till Black Ops 3 comes out. But you know, it's definitely important to spend enough time modeling and not play games all the time. However, you know, I imagine that games are made by the greatest artists. Also, it looks like I might be. Oh wait, I didn't do that piece yet. Sorry. You know, like sometimes it may seem like games are a waste of time. However, I look at it like it's a showing of top row art. in a game format. You know, like the people that those game studios are hiring, you know, they're not noobs. They're the best of us, I imagine, because the people that I look up to are the people that are working on this stuff. So, you know, playing these games, to me, it's like a field trip to an art museum. Like I get to see like how brilliant or how not brilliant, you know, games are put together. You know, like MGS5 was a mechanical masterpiece. You know, I loved looking at it the entire time. However, you know, I found the graphics to be slightly lacking on PS4, but that's just my opinion. You know, I played a lot of PS3. I also played a lot of MGS4, and I didn't see a lot of upgrade, but whatever. You know, the story was good, ish. You know, I'm not even going to go into that. So the most important part here, the helmet. You know, I had plans for this thing. Like I wanted to have some light intercuts, but you know, I decided that you know, I wanted to keep some sort of like uniform design language so people don't think I'm losing my mind or something. And also, you know, people responded really well to the color scheme of it being like gray, which, you know, goes to further advice I received previously from another artist who told me to stop using the color red because it was giving all my robots an America vibe, which I was not going for. You know, America, but, you know, not my robots. You know, America's gone by the time they're even existing, so, you know, there's that. But you know, I hope that you definitely find this video interesting, watching me sculpt and retopo at the speed of light here. You know, my goal is to definitely work like this in real time, but, you know, it's slowly but surely. Now, I also want to throw in that, you know, to all you people getting Blending Away to Pain, I'm also still working on getting some exclusive content to add to that. It's free, so there's no reason to not pick it up. But I definitely want to, you know, make Blending Away to Pain like a epic saga, you know, even before the sequel comes out. But, you know, thank you again, of course, all of y'all for your continued support. And if you're watching this video, I guess thank you as well. And if you're downvoting me, well, sorry about that. But continuing onward. Now, another thing, too, in other non-related news, you know, Substance recently added, what is it, iRay, NVIDIA iRay to Substance Designer's their rendering engine. I really wish they had cycles, you know, like, you see throughout all of this, especially later after it's solidified, that I do quite a bit of rendering just in the viewport, and it's just so dang fast. I mean, you know, I don't have the greatest graphics cards, but it does the job. Like, I'll render it out, and then suddenly I feel like I need to turn off my monitor because this dangerous-looking robot is staring at me. So, for what it's worth, you know, the Cycle's render engine is definitely a godsend. Like, I would say without it, we would be using a dead program right now, which is, you know, the God honest truth. Like, we would have been slower than Mental Ray, and we would have had like no reasonable alternatives. Like, I mean, you know, there's V-Ray in Blender, but yeah, have at it. That's all I can say. You know, I've been messing with it as well. I'd rather just use it in Maya. Maya is so straightforward for it. It may sound like blasphemy, but calm down. Maya's one of the good ones now. You know, this 2016 version, they made it look a little bit more friendly to Blender users. Like, I went in and it was like, hey, this looks familiar. It's like the Blender UI I turned off immediately. But, you know, it's a start. Also, the icons look cooler. Icons mean a lot to me. So, now going on with the eye. The eye was the part that people didn't like the least. However, you know, I was kind of thinking like feline kind of look. Like, you know, I've been seeing all these helmets with no eyes, and you know, that's cool, but you know, I want eyes, so eyes are a part of it. Also, if you want to see the you know, final-ish renders, they're on my ArtStation. Not finished by any means, but ished, meaning that ish to, you know, a reasonable part where I took a break and MGO came out. Grid fill is also one of my babies. You know, some of these options I want to add to hard ops just as like a little menu of just things I use all the time, but I don't want to make it too much of a rehash of things that are already there. Just have people looking for things, you know. Hard ops definitely was made specifically to sharpen and unsharpen, because it was ridiculous pressing Control E, then Control E again, and then having to drag your mouse to the left or tap 1, and then from there pressing Shift E and moving your mouse all the way to the right or pressing 1. Like, that's a ridiculous amount of keyboard operations that could have all just been mapped to one button. So, you know, it's just the way I work. You know, if you're following my videos and you've been watching me, you know, I got like 300 videos now. If you've been watching me over the years, you know how I work, you know my approach. Topos before hoses, but you know, basically that, you know, topology matters, but it matters as much as it has to matter. Like, I mean, I could just be fighting everything all the time, just make everything end in quads, but you know, when I in tests of models that I went through and just modeled freely, having fun, versus me trying to model it by the book like I'm trying to win some sort of science fair that isn't occurring, I see that it's just better to just run like the wind and just fix things as you go. It isn't the best option. It results in my bevels having some spikes and sometimes my geometry having some errors, but you know, at least I'm able to go in and correct that as it happens. But you know, like that's why retopology is important. Like, I find that if you get a clean retopology job on it, you can from there boolean the hell out of it after subdividing it a couple of times and really get both flexibility and the ability to get away with murder, basically, and even counter that with the bevel. So you have this nice geo with just random n-gons that you could you know, highlight with mesh lint and turn to quads and try to, or you would highlight with mesh lint, you would turn to triangles, and then Alt J turn to quads and try to get away with that, if you can get away with that. But you know, there's all sorts of ways around it. But I mean, if I was being paid to fix it, I would just fix it, or just make it right, or work on ways of making it right without having to even go through the fixing it process. You know, as Blender users, all of us, we should always be thinking of you know, you know, how to do the things we do, but also, is there a better way to do the things that we do, or is there unnecessary steps being added to things you do? And you might find that there's ways to speed that up. Like, you know, sometimes I'll model something, then I'll just go through and model it again real quick just to see if I could have done it in less keystrokes. Like, I could have, like, for example, we take a cylinder and we decide we want to put a little inset on it. So I could just insert an edge loop and select it and Control B bevel it, and then E and then Alt S to push it in, or I could you know, insert 2 edge loops, double tap or tap I to inset, and then I again to inset, and then Alt S push that in, and then I to inset that to get something that's more like subdivision friendly, holding its form. But you know, it's those kind of choices that, you know, are the clinchers. You know, like I'm always talking about avoiding RSS and, you know, keyboard syndrome, and like, you know, breaking off your hands, you know, pressing too many keys. You know, so my goal is definitely to be able to do it as quickly as possible, but also with the least amount of stress involved. Now, I think I already retopoed this piece, so I'm curious as to what I'm doing here. Now, this video is actually only like I believe an hour long, and just goes over the initial sculpt and retopology, but I should be showing you all the final mesh here before the end of it. And then, you know, just to build up the suspense, I'll probably upload another part that'll show just the body in action, because the body was really amazing. I just basically modeled just armor and put shapes where I wanted, and then T sharpen, S sharpen combo, and it was done. And the pieces had more gravity and more weight and cohesion and separation from each other, which was everything that I would have been seeking through my normal process of, you know, going through and Boolean shapes into it. It was just a very nice start to you know, pick up from. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because I'm not sure what is going on here. Maybe not that much. Now I'm also using a new screen capture program called Active Presenter, which was free, and it appears to be working pretty good, especially compared to the very large files that Camtasia creates in its wake of like sometimes 16 to 32 gigabytes just for a video that I need to go through and edit later in order to put online. So now I'm pretty sure that this guy is complete, so we're just going to jump ahead and see what happened here. So here we see that the video ends. However, right here it actually shows what the final model looks like. So it looks like we actually repeated a little bit there, so sorry about that. So bam. So here we kind of see what it looks like. So what I'll do is pause and add one more segment to this that will just show me messing with the finalish helmet, just to end part one. So one moment. Alright, so here we are with the part of the first file. So here was the initial sculpt, and so afterwards I take it through the retopology process and begin selecting the edges that matter and marking those as sharp. So this part is really where you get to see your topology skills in action, because this is all the stuff that you definitely wrote your topo around because you intended on keeping it, not just did it willy-nilly trying to just cover the shape. But after doing all that, we can get something like this. In fact, over on this layer, here we go. So right here we actually have it where everything has been sharpened, and I will control up arrow to reveal everything. And so right now all we have on this is a subsurf. Without the subsurf it looks something like this, which is basically what this would have been if I would have C sharpened, or not C sharpened, if I would have S sharpened and then went in and corrected all of these. And so as I would have sharpened these, it would have turned into what we see on the other layer. In fact, mirror to the other side. So back to this one. So the thing that really makes this thing handy is when you will apply the mirror in the subsurf temporarily just to get more geo. Now part of the information has been lost. However, I can select this edge and choose sharpness, and we will Q mark sharp, and now if we put a C sharpen, actually if we would just for this one add a bevel, I forgot I need to actually make a change, we can see here that it's only beveling the edges that matters. And this personally I feel looks a lot better than just that. In fact, one of these I would probably just keep as my low. But even in render, this is real time and it's coming out pretty fast. So we'll jump over to here. Now for this one, basically I went ahead, did everything I did on the previous one. However, I also went ahead and just Shift G, select sharp, Control E, mark scene, just for a moment, and then from there I'm able to just select pieces and assign it however I want. And then when it comes to the render looks great. And so from here I would begin dicing into it, cutting it to make it into something even more. So the final trick I'll show on this video before I go is one thing I also like to do is I'll Shift G, select sharpness, press P, selection. Now I have this jumbled frame of just mesh. So we'll remove the bevel, remove the solidify, also turn only render back on. There will be a shortcut for that added to hard ops. And this is always a dangerous thing, like partially has a chance of crashing. So we'll put a skin on it. In fact, when I was working on hard ops, I added a feature for doing this. However, it did this a lot because it is a kind of a slow operation. So I'll give it a quick moment to catch up, and then I'll show you all just kind of how to make the trim. Alright, so after I let that process, now I have basically this black trim that will surround all the edges, helping it also look a little cooler. Now I probably don't want to have it around every sharp edge because it was a bit time intensive on the computer, and also making my render time take a little longer just to even start. But now you can kind of see the idea here. So, you know, even without it, in fact, let's change this material to, say, like chrome. It's probably just a little dark. It looks like line work. So, waiting on that render. And so this is something I also probably could have done on one where the lines weren't subdivided, but now you you know, kind of get the idea. So that'll conclude part 1, and I will be back with part 2. And I'd like to, of course, thank you all for watching, and happy blending.